Thanks for staying with us. Listen to Planet Green Trees. Call number is 1-347-326-9626. This is episode 194. Calling it the Plan for Legalization in 2014 and Hash Bash number 43 reviewed. We just finished a very in-depth discussion interview with Tim Beck, the godfather of marijuana in Michigan, and also 40-year cannabis reform activist and kindergarten teacher Chuck Reem on the 12 new cities that are going to be targeted for some kind of vote for getting on the ballot, some kind of prohibition of marijuana reform. I'm going to get them back on the phone also, but our next guest as we're getting here is last week, many of you know, the Hash Bash number 43 took place as it does every first Saturday in April, and two of the speakers who spoke were here in the studio with us, and I know Chuck.
Four. We already got two here, plus two on the line.
Well, as I'm saying, in the studio, you two, and then we got Chuck and Tim, and we're going to get also on the air right now. I understand all three are attached to this one number, but we got Dakota, Josie, and Steve. Is that correct? Welcome to the show, guys. How are you today?
Hey, how you doing?
Hi.
Hello.
Very good, very good. Now, I'm going to get Tim and Chuck back in here, but you guys were at the Hash Bash and you spoke and explained what the experience was like for you and what you think the message was that, the bystander, not sure what was going on, would take from it.
Well, I just what I got from it was my first year, attending in a long time, and as a speaker, what I got from it was this is just this gathering of amazing people and amazing speakers trying to voice a message that's been trying to, come across for the last 43 years, and it was just amazing for me, and I hope it was amazing for everybody that was in attendance.
Well, it is. It's a fantastic experience, and obviously it's unique. There's obviously a lot of very unique things about Ann Arbor in general. Its progressiveness, and in the years, I don't know if people witnessed arrests. Usually, our arrests, despite the misconceptions sometimes that there is none. I saw people get chased and assaulted by police officers last year, but it happens in different pockets. But there still is a tremendous amount of freedom that is ringing true, and it is a great event. But what do you think the message is now, that's being taken away here now in 2014? Are they talking points that marijuana is something that everybody should try? Are they talking points that prohibition doesn't work? Is it talking points that, medical marijuana has not been implemented the way the voters intended, so we have to legalize for everybody? Or something else? What are your thoughts, and what do you think that messaging coming out is, if you can say that?
I think we're at a really incredible part, or a good point at drug policy reform. We have every news channel, every article, we're talking about marijuana. And today, obviously, Thompson said that there was 87% on an NY poll. What I saw there was, first of all, I'd like to commend Nick on covering all the speakers, from veterans to politicians, mothers, and lawyers. Like, that was incredible. And the people, there were more attendants that were from the younger generation, which was new. It was amazing. There was also a lot of new activists there, which was pretty cool. I didn't see nearly as many. I know last year, in the last couple of years, I've seen a lot of kids that were drinking, and they were mostly the ones getting arrested, and I didn't see any of that. I didn't see very many people going off in stretchers or getting in fights, which I saw a lot last year. Overall, I think the security was amazing as well. I think the message this year is prohibition is almost over, at least in Michigan. We're definitely going to legalize in 2016, and I think I'm looking forward to the next couple of years.
Let me ask you this, and I want to get the Godfather back on and Chuck and see what their thoughts are on this. The great activists in this movement, Jack Hare always spoke about how in order for marijuana to be re-legalized, it's got to be the most important issue in every single election for every voter, and that it amazes him that with the amount of people that are using cannabis, whether medicinally or for personal use, that there is not more money that is supporting the cause that so many people believe in. And I guess the question I'm asking, because I don't want to judge a voice by itself, but you guys are younger, and what do you think the position is of the, your age group, the college and just beyond, or the high schoolers becoming, in terms of getting involved with this message, this activism, if any? Where do you see that group of that age group in terms of like a scale of 1 to 10 of their participation in this? This is offered out to the Steve or Josie or Dakota.
Well, for me, like I said, I'm kind of freshly in this movement. But me as a Marine, going into the situations I did, I always look to the people that came before me, and I have the utmost respect for my brothers and sisters that came before me in wars past. And then I came into this movement not knowing exactly what to expect, and I met some amazing people that had been fighting a really hard fight for a really long time. And a lot of people have been just burned, and horrible things have been done to their families, and their lives have been screwed up. And it's very powerful and very moving for me to meet these kinds of people and to understand their struggles in this movement as I'm being more involved. And it's amazing. And I wouldn't even be here if it weren't for people like them. The things that I'm able to speak about now, the whole PTSD thing, the whole medical marijuana thing in general, it wouldn't be here if it wasn't for their hard work and their struggles and their sacrifices. And I'm so honored to be a part of that.
Chuck, let me go directly to you, because you are not only an activist, you're a teacher, and you live in Ann Arbor, I think, or around there. You spend time there a lot. And what do you think of the university's culture as it relates to marijuana? I mean, we know and believe that there's, college experiences involved using marijuana. There are dispensaries. Do you think there's the level of activism that should exist, or do you think that there's a certain staleness because things already happened? For the college, for that area of age group, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there is activism here where there hasn't been in the past. I think it could be stronger and more well-focused possibly, but we've got 2 different student groups at Michigan, the SSDP, Students for Sensible Drug Policy, and a group that is against prisons, SOAP, Students Organizing Against Prison, organizing to stop the prison industrial complex. And they're both doing good work here. And I really find the dynamism at some of the smaller places to be very exciting. What's going on with Ian, I think, at northern Michigan, what's going on at central Michigan.
Central Michigan, yeah.
Is extraordinarily exciting. So there's definitely leadership beginning to emerge among younger people on this issue as well. And we know that demographic is overwhelmingly in favor of legalizing cannabis.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, Steve. I mean, probably know the answer to the question, but I'm just curious. The military culture or community that you were in, during your period of time that you were there, as you described. I imagine that, is there an overarching theme as far as how they view marijuana? Is it beginning to be understood, at least amongst, if not the officers, the other participants? But I'm just wondering, can you? I mean, is it just something that's taboo that you can't talk about in that culture, or is it something that the people that you were around, the fellow soldiers that you served with, did you get the sense that they understood it to be, not reefer madness, and that it's a possible medicine for them or their family, or what's your experience with that from a military person?
Well, thanks for welcoming me to the table, man. I appreciate the time to be here, you guys. I've been a long-time fan of Planet Green Tea's radio. You guys do really good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, for real. Got to give props where they're due. Like Dakota was just saying, the previous generation led us here. And that's for sure. That was big in the when I joined the military in the 90s. I joined the 82nd Airborne Division, and I joined at a time where there was a lot of old Vietnam vets still training soldiers, a lot of guys who still had what you would call dirt, sand. Like, these guys knew what they were talking about. So a lot of our trainers were pretty hardcore, and I think even they understood the benefits of marijuana on the at home, stateside, and its therapeutic evidence, was evident in the 60s and the 70s when our soldiers came home in the knob. They came home, they smoked weed, they grew their hair out, they did what we would call relax. And they had to deal with a lot of issues then before they were allowed to even talk about it. Their PTSD was far beyond what I dealt with in the 90s and Saddam Hussein and the Desert Storm, Desert Shield, etc., or what my brother Dakota here, has dealt with. These brothers have gone long and hard before we got here, But I think that all these generations of military are starting to realize, at least in the last 20 years, the therapeutic benefits of marijuana. It's undeniable. When you look at a soldier when he comes home after war and he goes on the pharmaceutical rampage, the diagnosis of death, he goes on this cornucopia of pharmaceuticals that eventually lead to just dark places for people. You watch that person, that woman, lose what they had before they joined. And then you look at the people who decided to smoke marijuana, and there's a charted evidence. It's dramatically different. It's absolutely night and day. So I think that I've seen it come from the underground to the forefront. I'm grateful for all of you warriors, everyone who's done this, all of you people who have fielded the cause in medical marijuana and have gotten the ballot initiatives and all the work everyone has done before us. But now we can talk about it. Now we're allowed to come to the table. Like Dakota says, now we have a place at the table now. Now we're allowed to talk about this stuff. So I'm grateful for it. So I've seen a marketed change over the few years. So thanks for letting me talk and come to the table here today.
Not a problem. The producer, Jamie Lowe, who was one of the speakers and spoke very eloquently at Hash Bash along with Rick, are trying to direct the conversation back to Hash Bash. I just wanted to go to that. That, of course, is the one and only Lance El-Sadi, who, of course, has been the traditional Star Spangled Banner rocking out, and that is one of the, I think, memorable moments there. And I can't tell you, standing on the stage in years past when I was had the opportunity to speak myself, it is a phenomenal moment. I got to say, it is a new definition on what America means, if there ever was one. I mean, and if you're there and you're experiencing that, and as the sun's cracking out and the flags are flying and the smoke is bellowing above the 7,000 or 8,000 strong, it is a definition of America that needs to be, revisited, I think. And I don't know. So, Jamie, is that better for getting back to the show? I mean, back to the hashtag.
It is. I was interested in.
You're absolutely right, man. Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
But so, why don't you explain from your perspective what that experience was, and where you think what the message is at this point, and how effective it is to that crowd, and what impact it has on people from till next year, if any.
For the impact on the media, it's phenomenal. It went off without a hitch. Again, 8,000 people only one arrest. I think even media people that aren't familiar with it think those are astonishing numbers. As far as going forward, I think it provides a positive framework for the remainder of the year's news coverage for us.
And everyone was as high as they could be, and those thousands of people were shoulder to shoulder the whole time, and there were some really strong, tough people there, but with everyone as high as they could be, everyone was perfectly friendly and happy.
Well, Chuck, why don't you explain? What do you think the message is at this time, and what do you think? What was your, how do you reflect on this last year as opposed to other years, and its meaning, for 2014.
Well, go ahead.
No, Chuck, go ahead. I wanted to ask you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. I reflect on this last year as the year that we turned the corner. This is the year that we gained the majority. This is the year that we know we're going to win, and our opposition should bow out now and quit destroying people's lives. When they know they're going to lose, they're just hanging on to their jobs by the skin of their teeth. The wave is cresting now. There's no way to stop cannabis legalization. But as we point out by our campaigns in Michigan, it's a majority position. The average person doesn't support cannabis prohibition at all anymore, and so they shouldn't force us to go city by city, state by state, fight by fight. They should recognize, yes, the people don't support it anymore, and so we can get rid of it.
Tim,
Yeah, Michael?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can. Coming in a little different than last time, but it's fine. We can still hear you good. What are your thoughts on hashtags this past year? Do you think?
I've been listening to the show again. We got to be careful. It's a step-by-step process. And
they're doing it together. It's not about me. It's about this is doing it together.
All right, I'm going to go ahead. Tim, can you hear us? Okay, go ahead.
I think so. Is that better?
Much better. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well,
Hash bash.
Part of the thing, is constantly winning. Okay, and what, my personal thinking is that when you win all the time, your credibility increases, and part of the deal of winning is that you just don't bite off more than you can chew. You don't get overly inflated of your own sense of, like some sort of self-importance or ego or something like that. So, historically speaking, sometimes change happens bit by bit by bit, kind of a Chinese water torture, death by 1,000 cuts. And, ultimately, there was a poll, I think it was, Chuck, I don't know, maybe somebody else can correct me here, but there was a Pew poll that indicated that 76% of voters or whatever person surveyed believe that marijuana legalization is inevitable. At some point. Now there wasn't given a definite time or whatever, but now these people, some of that 76% may not agree with it, but on the other hand, they believe it's inevitable. And I see this again. It sounds hackneyed, but like this gay marriage thing. The dire predictions of gay marriage that was going to destroy this country and American values are going to go down the toilet and on and on and on. And they even had a vote, that Judy, well, of course, is defending and all, and that's whatever. I think in 2004 or 2008 or something, whatever, gay marriage was banned. It was a constitutional amendment. That whole thing is being turned upside down. And, most Americans, a majority, just do not see that gay marriage is a threat to anything. And I think what it's coming down to, and that's the same thing with cannabis, it's just getting to that level. It's almost magical. It's almost mystical. And the haze is, so to speak,
especially in Ann Arbor and Genesee County, we've had fully functioning systems of dispensaries running this whole time without any sort of real problem in the society. Hey, there is one thing I really want to mention about Tim talked about not biting off more than we can chew. Well, this year we have bitten off more than we can chew financially, and we are hoping, in fact, we are counting on various ones of our dear friends to help us and to help the movement in Michigan. I hope that Michigan NORML can help East Lansing and Saginaw. And I hope even NPRA, Tim mentioned one day, might be willing to help us. But people now, we do have credibility after winning constantly.
Well,
we are going to have for the first time. Let me finish this.
Yeah, I'm sorry, sir. Yes, please.
About our fundraiser. So, Safer Michigan Coalition is now legally registered as a PAC. You can write a check now to Safer Michigan Coalition, and we have a bank account. And we're going to do a fundraiser that is going to be really a great event on June 5th. It's a Thursday, June 5th at Dominic's right there on Monroe Street, where everybody came after the Hash Bash. And it'll be safe, and it'll be in Ann Arbor. And we'll have to decide how. I hope Ben can make some T-shirts up, and Matt Abel is going to do an auction. I hope we can all bring some of us, both veterans, can bring some of our memorabilia to be auctioned, and we can have other events. Great night, big night, important. Bring your money. June 5th. That's a Thursday. Dominic's, Ann Arbor. It's a fundraiser for all the campaigns.
Yeah.
Together.
Well, I want to interject a moment here. Chuck, you just mentioned, in the sense that, I guess, in a way, I don't think you and I are in personal control, if we ever were, of course. But this thing is getting so profound. I mean, there are people, there are activists, men, women. They're just stepping up the plate. They just want to do it, and I don't look at it as being under my or Chuck or anybody's personal control. This is a true grassroots movement, and we're going to need some help. We're going to need some help. Not me or Chuck personally, but I would say our biggest challenge is Saginaw. Yeah. That's the big kahuna. Yeah, that's one that we're going to need the most SIGs. Okay, and we've got a really good team in place. East Lansing is another, Mount Pleasant. Those are pretty big towns. And
Portage, if Portage happens, it's big.
Well, Portage, that's a big one too. You're right. Yeah, you're right. But again, it's no longer under any one individual's control, as if it was anyway. But we're saying, no, this fundraiser is kind of a thing. Then the money will be equitably distributed to the most needy. I don't mean that as a put down.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not a put down. But
it's most effective.
Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's the thing to keep, folks, if you're, to keep on the radar screen, to have this fundraiser, and it'll be really helpful. Yeah.
Put it on your calendar.
Yeah.
Indeed.
But otherwise, most people, it's extraordinary. People just want to self-fund. They want to do it. This is, they don't want any money. We've had a number, 2, 3, 4. No, we don't need your money. We don't need any money. We can do it on our own. That's
people are fed up. They want it done.
Yeah.
This has got to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an extraordinary thing that's happening. So.
So what do you guys think the message is? I'm going to want to go back to Dakota and Steve and Josie.
I got to sign off, Michael. But
okay.
Take care.
Thank you very much, Chuck. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Moving forward, then, just Tim, and then I want to go back to the other guys. But your final thoughts on the message moving forward here is it, because the talking points are what's going to win, and we know that the Colorado messaging was intentionally changed, and they, changed the message from instead of marijuana, you should try it, to it's an ineffective policy, it's less dangerous than alcohol, and it's tearing families apart, and prohibition doesn't work. As opposed to trying to sell people marijuana, it's the idea that what's going on right now is just totally, inhumane. Do you think that Michigan's at that point where we've, actually been able to articulate that as a media level, or do you think that it's we're still stuck, to a certain degree in medical and?
My thinking, personally, Michael, I don't, again, if we're going to get serious money, because we're going to need $1 million, I think. I'm just being as real as possible, in 2016, because Michigan, again, MPP is correct in my mind. Michigan is a big state. It is the second largest medical marijuana state in this country, next to California. That is a major, major thing. And it just, given the nature of what we're looking at, we got to have the polling numbers there. And there was a poll that came out. It didn't look that good. Well, we can debate whether the wording was right and, on and on. It's still a little iffy. And I think persons that, that are out there, they're not looking, to just, this is not a charity case. They want to win. So, what I'm thinking is, again, a step-by-step approach. We can get, decrim passed, hopefully in lame duck because of these ballot issues. And then at that point, depending on the polling numbers, we can make our move or maybe we won't. It's just a fluid situation, that's all. That's how I look at it, personally. Whatever. Yeah.
Oh, it's exciting times, Tim, and everyone's grateful for the leadership that you've shown. And of course, it's you can't own it, but we know that the strategies put forth by you and Chuck have been effective, and you paved the way, and people will get on board and follow along. And I think that's really, especially in light of the bigger picture of the challenges of funding Michigan for statewide. Yeah. But it's if anything that can be said, and I kind of just started thinking about this earlier, that there's really been nothing terrible that can be said about the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. I know there's criticisms of certain areas, but no one is, there hasn't been a zombie, youth movement that is, running around killing animals and, slaughtering teachers or something like that. It's like, there's been no, I don't know that there would be, but I'm just saying something that can really, sink their teeth into, show some kind of evil of what's taking place, And believe me, if it existed, they would. But it's a test period that we've kind of gone through, and I think culturally, there's clearly been a new way of looking at marijuana generally, and with that comes open-mindedness to, better, more effective change, I should say, other than just medical. But it's fascinating times, Tim, and I appreciate all your hard work.
No, Michael, thank you so much, and I'm glad to be on your show. You're doing good work, my friend. You and all of you. Really, thank you so much. All right, I'm heading out. Thank you, man. All right.
Sure. All right. And we do want to go back to our. I just wanted to parlay over to that other. But Dakota, Josie, and Steve, we got about 6 minutes left here. Then we may go a little bit over because I want to do a wrap up with the crew in the studio here, and David gets to. He's gonna. You get your rap song ready? You're going to do your hip-hop? Just kidding. What are your thoughts now? You enjoyed Hash Bash. What do you think, what would be if you could have your way and wave a magic wand, what would you want Hash Bash to look like next year?
I'd like to see more music. Mr. Saudi, that was amazing. The Star Spangled Banner, me as a veteran, somebody who takes the symbol of our great nation to heart, that was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And the way he ended it, that brought me to tears. I cried. It was so beautiful. I'd like to see a little bit more than that. The speakers are great. Everything else was great. I'd like to see twice as many people because, the message is growing and growing. Cannabis is saving lives, and there's no denying that. More stories are coming out about it. Everybody's telling their tales, and it's in everybody's face, and there's no denying it. Other than that, everything went smoothly in my eyes.
I thought so too. As a veteran of Hash Bashes several times, I thought it went very well, and a lot of observers have said the same thing too.
Josie, any final thoughts on that? What you'd like to see more of or less of, and do you think that that message that people see you think it will appeal to a more diverse group in years to come, or do you think it has really driven, a message that appeals only to the, I don't even know how to describe it, but just more about protesting than, diplomaticness.
I've been to the last 4 or 5 hash bashes, and this is the most. Every year it gets more diverse. I see people. They're like, "This is my first year. Medical marijuana saved my life. I believe in it now." I see people that are like, "Hey, medical marijuana saved my mom's life. Never smoked a day in my life, but hell, might as well support it." And it's more than just like hippies and tie-dye shirts. That's what's crazy about it. There are educated people. There are teachers and lawyers and doctors, and of course there's activists and students, and there's even children there. And I think every year it gets more diverse. I'd like to see maybe a more diverse speaking, more people of color speaking. I'd like to see more women actually in the movement overall. But I really commend Nick on this year's Hash Bash. I think it was done wonderfully. I commend Adam on his hosting. I think it's fantastic. All the speakers did wonderful. The crowd was they even cleaned up after themselves, which is beautiful. I was very proud of them. I think it went incredibly well.
It was beautifully done. Beautiful hash bash, yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
Well, it's always it's nice that it is, Michigan's. It's nice that it's in Ann Arbor. It's nice that it's so accessible, and it represents what it does, and it's, I think, really the beauty and independent of whoever speaks, there's a certain authenticity of it as its own, mystical event that, independent of however torturous the laws were, which is why the event commenced and began, we are going to recognize it no matter what. People are going to do their thing, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to yell about it, and we're going to make the message heard. And it's nice that it's it's always there. And as I say, like it's first weekend of April, that it's Hash Bash as well as opening day Tigers. But listen, I really appreciate you guys calling in. I'd love to hear more from you. I was going to say, and I want to do a whole show about this, and I'm glad that we got to speak at least a little bit about the veteran situation. I think as Rick or Tim just mentioned, Michigan being the second largest in the country of medical marijuana patients, second only to California, including Colorado, the fact that we have passed PTSD as one of the conditions is going to, I think, change the dynamics, and that because it's unique. I don't think there's only 1 or 2 other states that actually have an approved PTSD, and we know, as has been described, that it is a tremendous relief for this condition, and unfortunately, many veterans have suffered from it, and I know that there's some studies, and I know this is some of the things that got it. But the acclimation from the theater of war to civilian society, there's statistics of how difficult that transition is, and they have studies that establish that transition is, and they define like success or failures are based upon getting divorced or having a criminal case or but if you make it past 6 to 8 to 10 months and none of those things have happened, you're likely to. But that's when most of the bad stuff happens to those returning, and the use of cannabis, the study revealed, was reduced those events in that 6 to 8 month period of time, which statistically would prove that they would acclimate much more safely. But my point being that we should and will visit the veteran issue, the PTSD, and I think that you're going to see a lot of, Michigan could and should be a state where veterans can come to and get, utilize a medicine that will really effectively treat their post-traumatic stress, and along with that, an entire industry could happen taking care of them, because we know we haven't been treating them well enough thus far. But I want to thank both of you for your service, for your reflections on the event, and Josie, you too, thanks for calling in. It's fascinating perspective on things, and I look forward to talking to you guys down the road.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Much
Take care.
Man.
All right. Have a great night, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
Good night.
All right, so we are into the post hour. We got a little bit of time here to go around the room and chit chat a little bit. I want to. What are the topics we need to talk about? Or something? I had a kind of interesting. Maybe we might not have enough time. Talk to David Rudoy a little bit about. There was a discussion about the parenting and parenting of marijuana. David, what does one do here? I'll just pose this question. We'll give everyone 10 words or less to answer. How does a parent deal with, the effects of marijuana? You got a 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old kid. Maybe they're doing well in school. Maybe they're not doing well in school. Marijuana is prevalent in the community, that you live in. The incident happens where the kid, your kid or your kid's friend or someone gets caught with marijuana. And then all of a sudden this, innocence is lost. There's all of a sudden with the police and courts and records and college careers ruined and everyone, parents are the parents are all friends are chewing at each other and getting each other. And what is the right approach to this? I mean, David and I spoke before, and David is absolutely correct, and I wanted to be clear that I agreed with you that there's legal advice that should be given, which is, kid, do not speak to the police. But again, innocence is lost there too. Like, we grow up in a world where we want to, and the kids, you try to gear them towards, wanting to be part of the system, not a bucket. But there's a way to explain that. David, why don't you take a minute?
I think innocence should be lost for these kids. You just got to tell them. The police are not, in this current drug war society, the police are not there to help you, most likely. They are looking to fine you and get you into the criminal justice system. That's how I see this happen all the time. If you're in need of help, go up to a cop. But if you think you're being investigated for a crime, you don't talk to them.
That's a good way to put it. But I guess my situation is, what if you have a kid that's really not... I can just think of so many different situations where, for whatever reason, a kid ends up someplace where he's got no interest in, he just ends up and there's stuff going on and just kind of there as part of high school or what have you. But beyond that, forget the legal side of it. The next question becomes, how do you talk to your kids about marijuana at 16, 17, 18 years old? You know what I mean? And hey, listen to my question a little bit more. I want to go around the room. There's stories of families that parents, smoke marijuana openly in front of their kids. There are stories of parents who will chaperone children who are going to drink alcohol rather than be under supervision of it, so that no one's driving or over-abusing it or causing risk to themselves. This would seem like it is a crime. It's a crime for that to take place. The idea of, if you're going to smoke marijuana as a teenager illegally and put yourself at risk and drive around because you can't do it anywhere. Are we at a point where, you could tell your kid, if you're going to do it in the basement, or here at home, bring, but then what? Then word gets out at the school and parent A is like, what I'm saying? Like, I'm not advocating that. I just think it's an interesting discussion to have right now, because we know that the lies that are being told to high school kids about marijuana are, based on and, fundamentally associated with reefer madness, because the idea is that you're going to teach them and you're going to keep them away from harming themselves by punishing them, or scaring them. What?
Nothing. No, what's that, Chad?
I was just thinking we should wrap this up.
All right. I want to hear what Jamie has to say, Rick, and then David, and Nora, but everyone's got 10 words or less.
I can't do it in 10 words or less, but, I don't have kids myself. My experience is from some parents who I know who have children. Some choose to be open with them, some don't, but it seems like when they're in that age of 16, 17, and even 15, or probably even younger, a lot of parents have the ability to communicate effectively with their kids and make it really well known that it's not as David pointed out, whether using it or not, it's not something that you can take lightly if you're in the throes of the enforcement situation. Then it's a bad situation no matter what. So I think that kids can discern, their ability not to put themselves in that position. And then when I was a kid growing up in a household in which the activity took place quite often, and I knew, even much younger than those ages, fully well not to be open about this, and only in those circumstances, when it was covert or inside the home or things like that, would we discuss it or even do it. So I think that kids can be reasoned with.
I think they're sensitive. One of the things that came up in this conversation I had earlier before I talked to David about it was, the discussion of the parent was one of them wanted to, take it to the what I would call the traditional, and I when I talked to the client / friend, I said the old what's his face, like drugs are bad, okay, that's the answer. Drugs are bad. What's his name, Mr. Mackey from South Park?
Yeah, right. I was going to say.
So the point is that's not the answer. Like drugs are bad, okay, there's no discussion. That's not working. That's not the discussion. And the question becomes, what are you going to do on the other side of it? Say, listen, I know it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. But somewhere, but the point that I'm trying to make, Rick, and I want to go back to you, is that it's I think kids are more alert to this. They're not going if you lie to them and mislead them, they're going to be more resentful. And I think there's a certain level of honesty that they have to, because they know what's going on.
I think lying to kids about marijuana and telling them that they're bad is why, in any way, marijuana could be considered a gateway drug, is because people are like, oh, well, they lied to me and told me that marijuana was going to kill me, and I'm smoking it and I'm fine. Maybe they're lying about heroin, too. That's the only reason, is because, if we just were truthful about what drugs actually do to you, and people could make informed decisions about it, and part of the problem is that there's all these lies surrounding all these drugs and what they actually do.
Okay, and it's a father of three. Let me just first of all clarify that a lot of the things that are being said right now sound really good, but in the real world, it's not applicable. If you, my twins are 21, and I have an 18-year-old also, graduated from Centerline High School, right in the middle of Warren there, so I'm very familiar with all of the distractions that children have. You can't let a 15-year-old make his own decisions because he doesn't have proper perspective. That's why we don't give voting rights to kids until they're 18. That's why we don't give them certain rights and privileges until they're 18. You can't lie to your children, but you can't expect them to be the ones making the decision about whether or not they do or don't experiment with medical marijuana or with other drugs. The best thing you can do is to provide information for your kids and have an open and honest relationship so that there can be dialogue, so that if situations come up, they can get proper counseling and advice from the people that most matter to them, and that's their parents. Having said that, that's really difficult to attain, and it's an ideal state. But we have to bear in mind the reason why a lot of the legalization schemes are targeted at age 21 and over, even though you can be drafted and fight and kill and die in a war like Dakota and like Steve were subject to. Some ages, kids are just not capable of making their own choices. The problem, the ultimate resolution now is, as David said, if you mislead your children as to what the dangers of marijuana are, when they find out that it's really not as bad as you thought, as you said that was, then there's a loss of confidence. However, it's not always about marijuana is going to kill you. It can be things like marijuana is going to make you tired and so you don't do your homework, or marijuana is going to make you sometimes drowsy and less able to drive at night, or marijuana is going to be something that could get you in trouble with the police, especially since you hang out with that idiot that likes to drive too fast in the car that draws attention from every police officer that passes by. So there are some times you can offer advice where marijuana is not good based on your individual children's situation. I know Chad's a father, and Michael's a father. I absolutely support being honest with your kids about marijuana, but also the reality that they need to be prohibited from its use for many, many reasons.
This is a very good show topic. We should get some moms on and discuss it. I think it's also something that we can actually document some beginning of a dialogue of some really important issues. Like I was discussing a few weeks ago, the image of that was caught on video of somebody that we know.
Belt beating, is that right?
No.
Oh, different subject. Yeah.
No, it was walking through an outdoor garden or in a greenhouse with a man and a woman and like an 8-year-old kid looked like running around. Like,
right.
How offensive is that? Like, what really is the damage?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Well, how was a child harmed by that exposure? Right.
And I actually discussed this with someone from CPS recently, and
Yeah, we've seen Charlotte Figge, who for whom Charlotte's Web is named, walk through the realm of Caring Gardens, where she's actually touching the plants there, and obviously that These are pictures that we need to normalize so that people realize it's not frightening.
Note to producer. Good show topic for another time. The discussion about parenting and marijuana on
can
teenagers.
include Mr. Terbeek in on that, who announced at Hash Bash how he, after Bree was held up for everybody, how he has been smoking in front of his son since he was even younger than Bree, and he's just finishing up his program at Arizona in his last semester in getting a PhD in nuclear particle physics.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest eats, sleeps, dreams, and smokes marijuana. He's the hardest working man in cannabis, the founder of Third Coast Compassion Center, which was the first dispensary in the state of Michigan. This man's helped a lot of people start their businesses up and continue to do so for the industry. He serves as the chairperson for the Michigan chapter of Americans for Safe Access. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Jamie Lowell.
That's an intro.
All right, thanks everybody for coming out. Adam Brooke has shamed me out of using my notes as well, so bear with me a little bit. But in this election year, let's talk about Michigan's Attorney General. And let's remember that Bill Schuette is on duty for Bill Schuette and not the people of Michigan. We have some very important elected officials joining us here tonight. It's not the first year, but it is extremely cool. It's a nice indication of how far we've come. From Ann Arbor, Sabre Briere, who sits on the City Council of Ann Arbor. She also happens to be the next mayor of Ann Arbor, is here. The state representative from the area, Jeff Irvin, is here. And both of these people have demonstrated that they will actually research an issue, seek to understand an issue, speak with their constituents, and make an informed decision when the time comes to weigh in on policy. Unfortunately, our Attorney General does not have that same political philosophy. He doesn't care what any of us think. He doesn't research anything past his own personal beliefs. Okay. Representative Colton is here, or is going to be here today also, and he introduced the dispensary bill, House Bill 4271, who along with...
We should have played this the whole show. This is fantastic.
The original idea. We'll have to revisit this concept in the future.
An all Jamie show. That's badass.
Yeah.
Because he's like the silent one. Like, so when you get like a good, powerful thought leader, champion, screaming the fans. It's like 4,000 women that took their tops off.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to call right there. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Planet Green Trees, episode 194 in the bag. David, thanks for showing up tonight, and good work earlier. We got a lot done, so we'll record that. Lots of Chad, good stuff. Rick, Jamie, thanks. We'll see everybody next week. Thanks to all of our guests, Tim Beck, Chuck Reem, and the trio of Dakota, Josie, and Steve. Enjoyed talking to you guys.
The Remettes.
And we will be back with you next week. Everyone be safe, and we'll talk to you then.